greetings. I'm Savannah from Black Witch Coven. Welcome to the Ask Savannah question and answer series for 2025. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I like to talk about, and that's love. And everyone wants to know about love, so I decided to answer a question from Muhammad, and we'll get into that in a second. But before I get into this lovely, juicy question, I wanted to talk about something else for just 5 seconds, probably a minute. And I'm raising this because, well, I'm talking about this because there is a huge issue in society we all know about, and that is the issue of loneliness. Now, you probably have an old uncle or auntie or granddad or someone that's older, probably by themselves because of one reason or another, and they're really like bugging you for some of their time, right? And if you're a certain age, this is going to be really annoying because they bust out your phone just wanting you to lend an ear because they have some health issue they want to ramble about for 3 hours without taking a breath, right? I'm exaggerating, probably not, but it's not just the old people, it's across the board. And even in our occult community, you know, many of you there, we are lonely. Now, some of us are blessed to have a larger community. Some of us are in covens. Some of us have groups of various types to defrag, to talk, to share our thoughts and ideas. But most of us don't. And even if we do have a little community, there's probably limits as to what you can talk about within that community. For example, if you're on the left-hand path or you're alternative, like truly alternative, and you don't, you know, your ideas are quite, I'll be biased and say we're unique, right? Where some of us, or a lot of us, are before our time. The way we think about spirits and spirituality, our demons, our like extraterrestrial spirits, because really that's what demons are. They came down to this planet to share their light with us. Ask me about that in a question. I've got some juicy shit on that, as I alluded to decades ago. But sticking to it, many people have asked me, where is the community? Years ago, we used to have, I think it was called Witchvox. Now, that wasn't strictly a black magic community thing, but at the base of, the end of that site, they had a whole, like a Craigslist of different resources, different communities that you could sign into and stuff like that. We don't have that anymore. So I was talking with the other elders in my group, and even the admin staff, Edwin and Crystal and Lady Hannah from my group, and we all agreed that on our website, completely free, right? Because it's not going to be anything. It's not a directory. But we do want to set up something that if you're running a community or you have a resource for witches, occultists, black magicians, I don't give a shit what you are or who you do. If you have a community or a resource, then we're happy to list it on this page we're creating on the website. I'll come back here and I'll put a link below this video, and of course we'll have a link on the website about it and probably on social media. It'll be very easy to do, but we'll just start listing some of these places so that if you have a community or you know of a community, we are happy to post that link for you. Free, no skin off our nose. We'll have it there. We don't take any responsibility for what these groups do. Obviously, if it's like let's chop up littlechildren.com, we're not going to post it. But if it's something else and you're feeling legit and you want to get a community together, that's cool. If you're trying to get a community together and you have a little group or a Facebook group you want us to promote for you, I'm happy to throw that on the page. I would love for more of us to have a place that you can connect with. Now, it's interesting because there are some great communities out there. I was talking to another client this week and he said that he's in quite a grey magic or alternative community. He said some people are a little bit egotistical, but you get that in any community, right? But I was quite happy to hear that he has this community that he can go and can talk about spells, and there's demonolitary people there, and there's just witches there, and there were all sorts of people in this community. That sort of juices me because I love there's benefit to having a coven, like a traditional coven, such as a Wiccan coven where everyone's of like mind. But there's also great benefit if you're thinking about creating a community, and not everyone is the same. We're a little bit like that. Well, we're a lot like that at Black Witch Coven because we've been together for so long. And basically on the left-hand path, on the path of enlightenment, you're all going off to go on your own journeys. And man, I am very passionate about people following their own path. I don't want a whole bunch of savannas around me. That would be fucking annoying. But I feel like me. That's cool. And we do have, but they're different flavor. And I think different flavors help us all grow. That's just my personal opinion. Now, let's talk about what I want to talk about. Now, let's talk about love spells. So the question from Muhammad was, can you really spell somebody to love you? Is magic real? Can you really do a love spell that will make someone love you? So I'm very excited to answer this and say, yes, you can. Absolutely, 100%, you can do a spell to make someone love you. That's a general answer, right? And of course, if you listen to my videos over the past couple of weeks, I'm going to tell you when love spells don't work and some of the problems doing love spells and yada, yada, yada. Go back and listen to those videos if you want to hear some of the problems and some of the little nuances of doing these spells. But in this video, I'm going to tell you some of the juicy stories about when love spells do actually work. And so I took a couple of notes here, and I was chatting to some of the other occultists here about certain clients. Now, of course, we're going to change the names because we don't want to give any shit away. But I will just say, like, if some of the comments are from people from Wicca or lighter magic systems, whatever, I totally get it. Manipulation magic is seen as a bad thing. Well, I'm not from that side of magic. I am, well, what people would now call a black magician. I am an occultist, and I do manipulate people's will. I don't feel bad about it. There's no guilt or shame. And why? Because it's my belief that if I only am as strong as my relationships with the spirits. That's my belief. My way of manipulating the elements or conducting, raising energy and putting that out in the universe, I'm only as strong as that. And if they're not going to do it for me, then they don't. And so, whatever you want to call it, so be it. But yes, I like to bend the will of others and just see what can happen. So many of you will say, well, then what type of magic spell can do such an amazing thing? What magic spell can make somebody fall in love with you? Well, let me tell you, there's so many different types. I'm going to start with one that is super easy. And if you've been following me for a while, you would have heard me talk about the love potion. And there's probably a video back on that. I don't know where it is, somewhere down the track. I don't know. If you go to the website and just put the search bar love potion, you'll probably pull up something about that there. But this is a straight out love potion, and it's an enchanted potion. I put a drop of my blood in it, of course, and I was experimenting, and I think I put the recipe online too. It's probably on the website for all to see. It was enchanted. And I had a target. I had a date coming over to my property, and I gave him this love potion, and wow. So remember, when you're into witchcraft, if you're not worried about, like overly worried about consequences, and you're doing your protection magic and you want to get a little bit creative, I think people are very worried these days because there's so much knowledge about shit that doesn't work. But remember, protection first. Still, I did this spell and fed him the potion, and he just wouldn't go. So this guy is a very high level executive for family, like responsible, and still he would not leave. It was a real problem to get this guy to go. Finally, when he did go, I was like, shit, like, I was back in Sydney. I had to come back into the USA because I live in the USA full time most of the time. came back to the USA, and this guy was just dying to see me. So I was back in Hawaii at that time. He flew over to Hawaii. He was just lovesick, and it was a real problem to break this spell. So to answer your question, can you really spell someone to love you? Absolutely you can. This guy was head over heels. Now, I did have a good time with this guy, I'm not going to lie, but I just knew I didn't want him full time. So how did you get someone that is so obsessed with you to back off? That can be dangerous. We all watch well, I love the Law and Crime channel. I watch a lot of those type of things. And you can see what happens when obsession goes to the next level. You don't need a love spell, obviously, for obsession to go to the next level, but this can trigger someone. It can trigger parts of their personality to go off the chain. And so lucky he wasn't a violent type of person, but I had to do so many rituals to break that binding between him and I. And so and I'm going to talk a lot about this in this video. Be very careful what you do with love spells, binding love spells, such as that, with a very strong intention, experimental. I did all these type of things. I got what I asked for, but the spiritual world was very, very slow to let me off the hook. Now you might say that, well, is that just a placebo effect? You could say that, but if I wanted this person, I could be in a full-time relationship with this person. I could have been married to this guy if I took it to the next level. I think, and you can break this apart in so many different ways. Would I say long-term, would we even know if he truly was in love with me or not? Well, sure, you could argue that. But if someone is treating you right, they're totally in love with you, well, you know what? So many things are illusion in life anyways, whatever. Still, I will say, I don't do a lot of manipulation magic on myself. I have learnt a lot of lessons when it comes to love spells, manipulation magic, and so on. So let me give you another example of a long-term client of ours. And I know she listens, so I'm going to change her name and I'll call her Jill, and I'll call him Jack. And Jack and Jill was my client for a long time. I had her, she's going to know I'm talking about her. I had her when she was living with some other guy, and she was doing an MBA, and they were just living together, and we started doing spells to manipulate the guy that she was living with. And you just know when love spells don't work, things weren't quite right, and we found out there was actually a sexual reason why this guy couldn't actually be in love with her. And so we started working on the next person she was with. And let's just say Jack had so many obstacles to overcome when it came to creating a spell for him to fall in love with her. And then, surprisingly enough, he did absolutely fall in love with her. But still, he was a mummy's boy. He didn't have a history of long-term relationships with women. So many little things, ladies, we know what that's about. If you're a corporate lady and you're into it and you know the type by the time we get into our 30s and 40s, if a guy hasn't had long-term relationships and he's a bit of a mummy's boy and he doesn't talk about marriage, how hard it is, to get that guy just across the line. Well, this spell actually had him not just crossing the line, but head over heels crossing the line. They got married. They were married in Italy. Was it last year? And head over heels and very, very happy. So I would honestly say, though, that maybe it's me being overly positive, but I think that if he really didn't want her, then he wouldn't have been so manipulated by the spell to now be in this relationship where he is enmeshed, bound to her forever and ever. Amen. He is really into her. And I think what the love magic spell did was help him sort out his own emotional baggage, and to see her and the parallels and the connection there for him it was just an easy decision to ask her to be his wife. And so they are very happy. They're very goal driven. So that is a very successful case. There's other cases like that. Let's call you postal worker lady, or Miss, I call it hurricane zone, so around the Kansas area. Both these ladies initially were doing love spells on specific men, but these men had other issues. And so my advice after a while is stop. Like, obviously spirit is saying these guys are not suitable. The love spell you're doing on them is not suitable. And it comes back rather fast. It's up to the client or you if you want to keep working it out. Sometimes there is a breakthrough, but after a while, if there's not, you've really got to change. And the way you change this is you've got to let go of that attachment to that person you thought you wanted and open yourself up to the new possibility. Now, I've seen absolute amazing stuff happen here. We'll talk about postal worker lady. The love of her life came in the front door, and now he was a biker, now like a motorcycle enthusiast. At her stage of life, she didn't think that she was going to meet up with that type of person. But not only was he totally into her, they had a fabulous lifestyle as well. And yeah, talk about a success. With my Kansas lady, the same for her. As soon as she let go of the old, we cleared out all the energy. She completely lost attachment for the need to have love with that avoidant person. And this new person presented in her life. And even I was worried about her because I get close to my clients. And I was a little bit nervous, but the spiritual world was, the divination was saying, yeah, it's fine. Go, green light, let's go, let's go. He's so fabulous, even though he's younger, even though I would say, well, really? Is this the one? Yeah, this is the one. He's totally in love with her. And I feel like, you know, it just helps sometimes these love spells really get people into alignment with each other. So that was another great case. Gypsy just told me, Gypsy is another spellcaster with us. She sits more on the grey side, on the middle. She walks the line. And she loves doing more, she wouldn't call it manipulation work. Now, light workers, I say all love spells are manipulation. So be it whatever you want to call it, I don't care. I like to say that, well, she likes to do more of law of attraction type of work. And she is doing soulmate summoning types of rituals. And she spoke about one of her clients was more of an academic. It's hard for her to meet people, had no opportunities. I actually think I used to call this client like, you know, she should be a lesbian because she's never going to attract a guy. But she did the soulmate summoning work, summoned this guy, and it's after 10 years now, and this couple is just so in love, living the artist lifestyle. They're in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains. And I had the privilege of popping up there. I was back in Australia, I think it was October, November last year, up in Katoomba at a witchy little festival. Popped in to actually visit with his client, with Gypsy. And so it was just magical to see their lifestyle and how in love they were. So that is really, yes, to answer your question, there are your examples. It really does work. Now, I also added a couple of different notes here. There's what I like to call the placebo effect. So this is when maybe you're not looking for love or you're really not sure. Binding spells, people do binding spells far too much. And like I said in the beginning, I learnt my lesson with binding spells. You bind someone to you, you're not sure if you want them, or you're just testing it out, and there's a lot of negative stuff that can happen with a binding spell if you don't really want them. So I like to do things like glamoury types of spells, limerence type of spell, where it has a short-term effect. And that way you can really make the decision if that person is for you, or you're just wanting that person in your life for a certain period of time. I spoke about gay love spells last week as well, not to try and change or entrap that level of energy, like a man's man. You don't want to entrap that energy. It's not going to end up good. But something like a lust spell or an obsession spell, that's something that's good. You're raising that energy, you're intense for a moment, and then it can relax a little bit. I suggest the same for the younger audience who are dating boyfriends and girlfriends and just testing out the market. Test it out with this type of spell, because that way the illusion will fade after a while, but you're not stuck with all of the crap that can happen, or the lingering after effects that can happen with other types of binding magic, blood magic, more demonic magic, and other type of ritual magic when it comes to lust and passion spells. So I think I've answered this question directly, right? Yes, you can spell somebody to love you. Absolutely possible. I've given you lots of little tricks and ideas and examples in this video, so I hope that it inspires you and to get a little creative, what to do, what not to do, etc., etc. Anyways, if you have a question for me, go over to blackwitchcoven.com. Up the top, you'll see Ask Savannah in the menu bar, and you can write a question for me to answer on video there. Until next week, guys, blessed beast. Bye.